Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest was a member of that Amazing Race show. I guess they call them racers. Actually, I shouldn't say member, like contestant or something, but it is a game show kind of, right? It's treated like one anyway, as you guys know. And you guys know the Amazing Race, right? Let's just, I got nothing better to do for the next month. So I think I'm going to go to 5 continents and 10 countries. And, while I'm there, do all these crazy things. And, some cases with a teammate that annoys me a little bit, even though they're friends of mine. It's really tough to deal with them all day, every day, and then have to win with them. I mean, it's an awesome construct model to put just human behavior as study, right? It's pretty cool. She participated in season 14 along with her friend, teammate, flight attendant, partner, I don't know, Christy. And they both went on there and do the best they can. And CBS hit show Amazing Race, I already said that. Jodi Wincheski, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about how it all started, right? You're in the skies at Southwest. Is it Southwest? I just guessed that actually.
Southwest, yeah.
Okay, Southwest. So you're having fun on the plane anyway, not like those other airlines like Delta and United where it's your flotation device. At least they sing happy birthday. I like that mentality. Anyway, you guys are doing that thing. Where in the heck came the Amazing Race? Thought of the Amazing Race. Tell us about it.
So the Amazing Race came way before that.
Okay.
I watched Amazing Race my whole life, since it started. I actually applied for season, I think 2, maybe it was 4. I don't know, 2 or 4 with my ex-husband at the time, but we were actually officially divorced and we were still going to race together and everything else. And we got all the way through finals and they were like, you guys are great, but we want you to get back together. And I'm like, we just went through a divorce and we have a 2-year-old, and we get along really well, but yeah, that's not in the cards or we wouldn't have gone through this process. Right.
We love the show. We're not getting married again.
They wanted this whole, they wanted to see, are you going to get back together? Like, are you going to entertain that? Like, that's what they wanted in the show. So that didn't work.
Interesting.
And so, fast forward, several years later, I actually applied with Laura Moret, who was on Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we'd always talked about Amazing Race, and she was just in a period of her life where kids, and it just never worked out. And so when we finally got our tape in for Amazing Race, I got a call when I was flying at the time, and I got a call and I ran off the plane and checked it real quick. And it was casting saying, hey, we really like you. And we really like Laura too, but we want a team of flight attendants and you need to choose a different partner. And we need a tape in 3 days.
Oh, geez.
So it was one of those things. And so of course I talked to Laura, it was a big decision back and forth and all this stuff. And Christy and I threw a tape together in a few days. I had happened to be flying with Christy that day that they called me. And so when I went back on the plane, I'm like, hey, I just got this call from Amazing Race. I've been waiting for it. And I was like, you want to talk about what just happened? And she's like, I love that show. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, I've watched it me and my husband have watched it ever since the beginning. She goes, we wanted to apply, but he can't because he's a German citizen. So, one thing leads to another. And next thing you know, we're applying.
That's awesome. Let's take a couple questions from the listeners. Alyssa from Boston wants to know, is there any way to prepare for the mental or physical game of Amazing Race?
It's a tough one. I mean, I would definitely study geography like crazy because you need to know where you're going. And little tidbits about what they're known for help because they do tend to do, like in Switzerland, we had cheese rolling down a hill. It's like the kind of things that they're known for. We bungee jumped off of like this giant mountain, So what's Switzerland known for? What are they like? What kind of, what's their currency? What's their language? Things like that. It's a lot, if you really went into all the geography, but that can help you. And if any languages can help you, obviously packing correctly and efficiently can help you. So, I mean, there's definitely things to study.
Yeah. I was just speaking just before this interview. I was speaking with London Kay from, I don't remember what season she was from. I think she was later season, like 29 or something. But she said that what she was, if she can do it all over again, because she watched all the shows, she got in really good condition. but she said if she could do it all over again, two things she would have done is one, learn how to read a map. Number one, and number two was, interestingly enough, she said she would have put her phone away for a while and dealt with that being without the phone because she found that hard to deal with. Conversely, I interviewed Bates Battaglia a couple of weeks ago. He won season 12, 2022, I think, with brother Anthony, and he said it was reading. He read everything and comprehended it because the theory was, he said they agreed, both of Anthony and Bates, to read everything twice because they are the kind of guys to read something and go read, like, do. And somebody stopped them along the way. It wasn't even a previous Amazing Race person, just said, you guys better, that's not what that says, what you just read. You know what I mean? So, and then they went, hold on, you can't do that on this show. And he said
Yeah.
that helped them get to the winner's circle, kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess reading a map, I would think is you don't go on the race if you don't.
Right.
Right. And I mean, I did it also in 2009, so we were a little bit less dependent on our phones. And I mean, Twitter wasn't a thing, and Instagram wasn't really a thing, and so it wasn't like constant things with all the social. So yeah, I could see that. I think like running with a backpack, like a heavy backpack, that would be really, really good for you to do.
Right.
And we almost read our clues too carefully because being fans of the show, like, number one rule, read your clue.
Right.
And you still watch it, like even this last week, and you're like, read the clue.
Right.
Like, how did you leave all your stuff? I think it was last episode, maybe the one before, where they left all of their stuff on the island, get in a boat. I mean, it's
ridiculous.
It's a very small clue. Like, read it. We almost we overly read it to where we kind of read some stuff into, especially this one clue that messed us up. But yeah, that's a definite, if you're a fan of the show, you should know that.
Is it, and we'll get back to the listeners' questions in a second, but is it more mentally or physically draining? It's just, there seems to be, I think that's what the attraction, at least for me as a fan watching the show, is that you're physically going through physical competitions. Some are more mental, right, and strategic, but at the same time you're doing all this, it's a big mental, physical drain on you, right? I mean, it's very tiring to watch, never mind to participate.
It's like the same, I think, in Survivor and Amazing Race and a lot of these shows. Like, it is really mentally taxing. It kind of messes with your emotions a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why you see more people cry. People are like, I don't cry, and they're crying.
Right. Yeah.
There you go through so many like really tough things, and you come out the other side of it, and then it's just like a let go of emotions, kind of. So I would say the mental part is harder. The physical part is hard.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're running way more than you would ever think. Because you just they don't have time, and it's not that exciting to watch people run.
Are you sleep deprived during this at all? I mean,
you don't sleep much.
So that's a challenge, right? I mean, because you're not in your quickest mentally, right? If you're not getting your sleep, are you guys all sleeping on the plane as much as possible when you have to go from one place to another, or trying to?
Catch 22. Like, I think the thing is it's hard to sleep because you're always thinking. If you can turn your brain off and just sleep, okay, but you still have to prepare for what's coming next. And what if you're on a plane, you have the opportunity to ask all those people around you about that area you're about to land in.
Yeah, good point.
What do you know about it? What where is this? Where is that? How can I say this word? Where are you going after this? Just the questions. You can talk to the flight crew. Like, there's so many things you can be doing on that plane, and sleeping is definitely one of them. But it's just hard when your brain's racing, even when you have a pit stop, to actually shut it off and go to sleep.
That's a good point. Excellent point. Will from, where is Will from? Will is from Framingham, Massachusetts. Wants to know, was there a country that you thought you might return to? Meaning you loved it so much, I guess.
I love travel. Switzerland's beautiful. It's gorgeous, and super expensive, but great. I love Thailand, and I've been back several times. I could probably do without India.
Yeah.
And I could probably do without the parts I saw of Russia, at least. I'm not it's a big place, so I'm sure there's great places. Romania was really interesting because it was like a throwback in time. It was so different than anywhere else that I've been at that point. and I've traveled decent amount. So those kind of come off the top of my head.
He had a plan, a second question, a follow-up question. And it is, where did you meet the nicest people?
Ooh. Let's see. I mean, everybody was pretty nice along the way, I have to say. The nicest people.
Were anywhere people helping you? Like not,
Yeah, people did help us a lot. I think when we first got to Switzerland, we had to get on this train and find this little city and then find this Pope that was like in this tiny little town, and all the walkways were really little and they
Yep.
were cobblestone streets and they weren't marked super well. And we had this older lady, I remember, and somebody else that walked us the whole way exactly to where we needed to be. And it was very, very nice. It was late, it was dark, and they walked us to that place, even though our language barrier was a little shaky. Yeah, they were amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Christy from Sacramento, California, wants to know if it was difficult with your sound and camera guy tagging along with you.
No, it's not difficult. I think some teams are faster than other teams. Some teams are almost throw you off a little bit. But for the most part, they're just sometimes I felt so much safer the fact that they were with us.
Yeah.
Because in Russia, it got a little dicey. We had drunk guys, it was a little dicey. And so I felt better that they were with us, that they were near us.
Interesting. That's a good point.
Even though they're really not.
Yeah.
They can't really do much. You know what I mean? They don't interfere. They don't really talk to you a lot during the race or anything like that. But it's just nice to know there's somebody there that at least has some type of communication in case all hell breaks loose.
These guys have to be really good at what they do to be able to
They are
lug that stuff around, not slow you down, not get in the way. I mean, are they hustling, getting in cars as like they're not, they know you're in a race, so they got to try their best to keep up with you.
Those camera and sound guys are amazing. They are especially for Amazing Race, like they're insane. They're carrying around 50 to 100 pounds and keeping up with all of the teams. They can't slow you down.
Yeah.
They have to be in the right position, and not only be in the right position, but get the right shot. And then they've got to ask good questions to make a fantastic show later. They're incredible. They're like fantastic travelers. They're athletes. They've got obviously amazing skill with their cameras and their sound. They keep you in check. So yeah, I have nothing but huge respect for all of them.
Mark from Clearwater, Florida wants to know, can you tell us a little bit about Phil? I'm not sure
about Phil.
Yeah.
Phil's a great guy. He always gets there just before everybody else. It's like set up. He's super personable. I don't know.
Is he personable? Because we don't see that. Like the people watching the show, I know you've experienced it and you still watch the show. And I'm not saying he's not personable on the show. What I'm saying is you see him in, New York City, and then we see him like standing on his, throne in whatever country. And it's like, oh, he just magically appeared. Because we see you guys, we travel with you guys. We're part of that. But then all of a sudden there he is. And then he's at the next place. It's almost like he's Casper and he just flies around and drops in. Although I was watching, it must have been the London one. He actually said, you two, it was when you picked your partner. And he points to the last group and said, since you didn't pick, you go with me and you drive me. I'm driving you to the airport. And they actually showed him getting in the car with Phil, which I've never seen before or since, by the way. That was kind of weird. Yeah, that was interesting.
Typically. So he's racing around the world too.
I can imagine. Yeah.
He's got to get there just before everybody else every time and be set up and ready to go and shoot it. Like there isn't let's do that again. Let's retake it. No.
Yeah.
They've got to be there and get it going. So so he's jetting around right in front of everything else that's happening and making sure that the shots are all set and everything, they've got the right cameras and everything else that's happening right before the teams start running in.
Do you ever see him at a pit stop?
What?
You never see him at pit stops and stuff, do you?
Bill?
Yeah. After, when you're away, if you're staying over or you're in a hotel somewhere.
He doesn't stay at the hotel with the other guys.
Okay, I didn't think so.
or with you. If he does,
Yeah.
he's on a completely different floor and you don't know about it.
Right,
But
right.
for the most part, no, he has different accommodations so that
Got
he's
it. Got it.
yeah, he doesn't really just come and chill and hang out.
Got it.
Yeah.
Did you have, this is from Alice from Denver, Colorado. She wants to know, did you have a favorite challenge and a least favorite challenge?
Well, in hindsight, my least favorite and my favorite became the same.
Oh,
So my least favorite was the one thing I told Christy I didn't want to do was bungee jump. Something about like, jumping with a rubber band tied to your ankle doesn't sound like a good idea to me. But it's just I didn't want to do it. I told her that originally, and then when we got there, I could see by the look on her face that she probably wasn't going to do it, and there was a risk that we were either going to be out or thrown to the back of the line. And so I'm like, I'll do it. And I was petrified. Like it was a tiny little area, like the edge of a diving board, with just like the last 5, 6 inches. It felt, and you stand
yeah.
on that, and they're like, just jump as hard and as far as you can towards this like rock monument that was like miles and miles away.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking like, what if I don't jump far or high enough? And so you jump up and then you just go straight down.
Right.
And I was like, I mean, holding my breath, shutting my eyes, waiting for it to be over. And I remember like halfway through, I'm like, what the heck? Like I open my eyes and I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. I was only like halfway down and I still had to go the rest. And then you recoil 80% of the way back up.
Right.
So in hindsight, it was my favorite because it's something that I overcame and that I didn't know if I could just go out there and jump. There's times when you're on those like rides at a amusement park, right? And you're
Yep.
like at the top and they're about to drop you, and it's like, if you had the choice, would you push the button and just drop yourself, or would you maybe just get off, right? But you had to just free fall into the air, and it was scary, but rewarding when you get something to that.
You wish they would just tell you all you have to do is just lean over because you'll fall and everything's safe underneath. But because I did it once years ago, and it was the same thing. We did it over a river, and the guy is like, jump out as far as you can, like implying that if you don't jump out as far as you can, there could
You're
be
gonna get hurt, right?
yeah, you're going to get hurt. And I'm like, why would you? At the end, I said, why did you say that? And he goes, I just want you to get the full experience or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm
Oh,
not sure. You freaked me out. He goes, yeah, that's part of it. I'm like, okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Okay, you're welcome.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So you guys, you and Christy, tell us about the flight to Siberia that you guys kind of used your flight attendant skills to get that going. Do you remember that?
Hardly. I do remember taking a totally different route when we had to
Right.
like switch airports or something to get there, and we found a way, and that was great.
And
I
I
do
think you got there first. I mean,
coming off the edge on that. What?
didn't you win that leg? I think.
I think we did
I
that.
think you
We went.
did.
Is that the one where we were in the we ran down the auditorium?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we won that leg, but so what sticks in my brain is that we had to build this wood wall that was like as high as we could possibly reach on our tiptoes to put the top on, and wide. And I guess being, slightly country here and there growing up, we figured out how to do that. But so that's why it's like, oh, we're building this never ending wall. It can't fall over and all of that. But yeah, you're right. I did kind of forget about that. We did kind of do our own rerouting, and
You
we
did.
actually told somebody. I think we told Mike White what we were going to do. Um, and they decided not to do it. I think they thought it was too risky. But
Got it.
we're like, for once, this seems like a better option for us, even though there was some connections and you had to make sure you had it all
Isn't it interesting? I always find this interesting about Amazing Race, and it's very simplistic. I know you're going to say, obviously, you want to be on the first plane, but there's people that have been on the second plane multiple times and have won Amazing Race. I think that's why it makes it. I mean, there's so many things that can happen that
right.
you can be last, dead last. Or I mean, I was talking about Bates and Anthony. They were last in two earlier legs, and or no, second to last, and then the one they were last in after that was a non-elimination, and they end up winning the thing. And
Yeah.
and they when I asked him about that, he said, "Oh, Nick, early on we thought we were going to be gone, like before we told people even got to see us in the
Yeah.
show, because they were so screwed up."
Well, I mean, we were almost eliminated the very
Yep.
first leg by seconds.
Yep.
And you never know. Like, there's certain things that are out of your control, and it sucks. I mean, but it's part of it. It's what you sign up for. Like the cab thing, it's
Ugh.
always a great equalizer in sometimes the worst ways. We had, I think our biggest disappointment on the race was when our cab went, we were in India and it went to like some beautiful church. No, it was Russia, some beautiful church
Right.
that had nothing to do with what we told them to go, and you
Right.
tell them 18 times and they say they know exactly what they're doing and they
Well,
know what you're talking about. And then they just don't go there.
isn't that the one where they were taking people to a certain place all the day or something, and they ended up? That's where he took you.
Yeah. They took us to this place that tourists love. I mean, it was a
Right.
beautiful
Right.
church, but it
Right.
was 30 minutes in the wrong direction and then 30 minutes back. And the church we had to go to had a bride and a groom, and we had to get the bride. Like it was set up.
Yeah,
It
that's right.
wasn't just a pretty tourist
And
church.
that was non-elimination too. So you got kind of that one you got away with.
That one is the one where, yeah, we
The
got,
cab in India is the sealed your fate kind of. Would you?
yeah, we had a rough cab. We had some rough cab problems. And it's just frustrating because you're asking them and you're like, are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they, oh, yes, they are sure. So it is what it is.
So Alex in Jupiter, Florida wants to know, how did you think of the editing that they did of you? Was it what you remember? I mean, it's got to be pretty good, right? It
I
reflects.
I felt like our edit was pretty true. I thought everybody on our season came out pretty true to what I thought of them.
Yeah.
I didn't think that there was anything that was like, oh, that's so surprising. I,
Anything that you would have done differently after you came back and you thought about it? Was there anything you would have changed, done differently?
yeah, personally, I would have been in an alliance with some other team. We
Interesting.
didn't want to go that, or we didn't go that route.
Yeah.
I know Christy really wanted to be independent and to make all her own decisions. And I think it's better in hindsight that you are in an alliance. Like right now, that those top 5 alliances,
Yep.
it's helping all of them.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think, there's also, when you're at the front of the pack, you can kind of watch people and see what they're doing right and wrong and kind of learn and figure it out. But if you're alone anywhere, it's just on you to figure it out. So it's almost like sometimes I think we had a problem in, where were we? We were on a train in the very beginning when we were almost eliminated. It's because we took a train because we were, being flight attendants, we were too cautious again about, connections and where they could go wrong. So we took this train and we got to Switzerland and got through it. But if we would have just stayed with the pack, we would have had a lot more knowledge and a lot more information. We could have watched longer. We could have known what everyone else was doing. But instead, we just completely went out on our own, and doing that kind of cost us.
Got it. Anne Marie wants to know if you and Christy were still friends, and did you get along for the most part during your race?
We don't have contact.
Uh-oh.
We did get along for the most part during the race. I mean, we didn't fight. I'll say that. We're very, very different people. And, I can only speak for me. I felt like I was kind of walking on eggshells. I was just really cautious with it. But we didn't fight, and we got along.
So you're implying, though, that if you had another partner, maybe things could have been differently? I mean, you don't want to be walking on eggshells during.
No, it would have been better to be with Laura, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, just with somebody that you know well enough
Yeah.
that you can say whatever to and they're not going to get offended.
Yeah. And she would say the same thing, probably, right?
I'm sure she would.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure she was like, I wish I was with my best friend from wherever,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
if you had somebody that you knew well enough, even if it's a sibling or somebody you've been dating for forever. I mean, you can, you don't have to be careful. You just say what it is. Like you look at the two, the sisters, the Cajun Asian sisters that
Oh,
are
yeah.
on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty blunt with each
Solid.
other,
Yeah.
and nobody gets offended or hurt or upset by it, right?
That's a good point.
They're family.
Yeah. What did the Amazing Race reveal about you? Like, was there any kind of introspective moments where you after this thing, I'm really, a good teammate, or I can adjust and pivot during difficult situations, or I'm appreciative of other people's cultures, or whatever.
Yeah.
Tell us, did it show anything about you?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, just like as doing it as a team with 2 girls, that, I mean, we were 40 or not, we're not tall, like we're 5'3", we're, whatever. I think you really realize, like you look back and you're like, how did we do that? Like it's hard. It's really hard. And so you have this self-reliance and you just kind of know that no matter what life throws at you, that you can handle it. And yet, whatever you have to do, you can be independent and you can figure it out. And so that's kind of a valuable tool to I think just to have as a person, because you don't know what you can do until you're forced to have to do it.
Got it.
Even back to the jumping thing, that it's just one thing I didn't want to do. It's like you see people. I hate snakes, so if I had to like lay in a pit of snakes,
yeah,
I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
But if I had to do it,
yeah,
maybe I could.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about the Amazing Race too. I'm not worried about animals for the most part, but I'm a city guy, so I don't know what the difference between a goat or a lamb, or I don't even know what they are, right? So it's really embarrassing, especially when you have 4 kids and they're like, "Daddy, look at the goat," and I'm like, "Which one is that?" But anyway, I used to have a problem with bull and cows. I do whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not about me right now. It's about Jodi. Stop picking on me, people. But the point of it is, no, I wanted to ask you about, I lost my train of thought completely. Damn, what was I going to ask you? Something.
Well, you were asking me earlier about like appreciation of culture and things like that.
Yeah. I was wondering if there was any moments that when you look back on Amazing Race, when you sum it up, when somebody says, what was your experience like? And what would you tell others about it? What would that be? Like if somebody said, tell me the great and the good and bad about Amazing Race.
The good and bad. Oh. I mean, there's so many good. I guess the only bad is like, it's more exhausting than you think. It's harder than you would think.
Yeah.
You're starving.
Yeah.
You better be in really good shape. It's just, that kind of thing. But there's so many good things because you just grow so much as a person by trying to get through all of the tasks ahead and get around the world and, make friends with the other teams and just everything that's happening. The things that you get to see are fantastic, even if it's going quick,
Yeah. Yeah.
The experience that you get to have, those are like, they're just phenomenal. Like you would never have those opportunities to do the things that you get to do on that show.
And I guess there's some lessons there that you might pass on to your daughter to say, in your bungee jumping moment when I said, you said, there's no way I'm doing this. And you looked at your partner and went, there's no way she's doing it. Somebody's got to do it or we're going home. And, I've watched some things. I watched people going down a water slide on Amazing Race and the woman wouldn't do it. And the guy was like, it's a water slide, but it went straight down. Think about the difference between, and she was like, I can't do it. And that was it. Think about the months of preparation. And you just said, you know what? I'm fearful of this, but I got to bite the bullet. Somebody's got to do it and I have to do it. Doesn't mean your heart wasn't going 1,000,000 miles an hour. I can't even imagine. I saw one where they were digging up in the dirt, scorpions. I think it was on the Anthony and Bates one. They're digging a hole. And that's what freaks me out. There's insects that I don't know about. Like I have rats in New York City. I'm fine with the things that I've seen in my life. It's the ones I've never seen a scorpion and it looks mean with that thing that I don't want to get, and they're digging them. And then they're going, oh, I got one. The guy goes, the native goes, and he puts the jar over, like, pick it up and put it in here. The person's like, what? I'm like, Uber, I gotta get out of here.
Right.
But it showed you something to be able to overcome all of that fear and, jump out as far as you can. That's,
And then there's just things that are just like pure physical labor or mentally hard. Like, I think I've always had pretty good work ethic and I think Christy did too. Yeah. And so I think we were just of the mindset of you just power through and you just keep going unless you physically can't go anymore. And it doesn't even matter. That's all mind over matter in a lot of ways too. But there are things on that race that they may seem like, yes, it's been a really long time, but you have no idea how long it's really been.
Yeah.
Like it is hard and long and grueling.
It's so funny that you say it's not funny, but it's interesting that you say that because everybody that I've interviewed has said it's tougher than it looks. Everybody has said it's tougher than it looks. And for the people that are out there, the naysayers that say, there's bathrooms on the island at Survivor and, the sharks know the businesses before the people come in and the deal's already done. I mean, this is all made up stuff, right? And we know that. It's people say that even contestants that are going in to be racers for Amazing Race, they say they think there's got to be something that the viewer doesn't know that's at least a little bit easier for them. And it's not, it's the opposite. Like, whether it's more time to sleep or it's they must have a dinner waiting for you somewhere. There's none of it. Like, it's worse than they think. Many people have said that to me.
We ate like, I don't know how many granola bars. Like, we had like some kind of power bar or something in our bag. We had like 50 of them probably. And we ate all of them. Like, that's basically what we survived on, were the bars that we had in our bag.
Yeah.
There isn't just food there. It's a lot harder than people would think. It's just, you go back and you're like, how did we do that? Because if you're in Russia, you've got a map that's in Russian. You've got words that are like this long just for everything. The people don't understand what you're saying. And you're trying to find your way around, and we're driving a car in the snow.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an easy thing to get through.
Yeah. No, not at all. Unbelievable. So tell us about what you're doing today. I know you've started a business called Casting Reality. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've kind of went through, I spent 11 years with Survivor, Race, and doing casting. And I literally every single day of my life, I had probably at least 5 people reach out to me that would say, hey, can you watch my video? Hey, can you give me some tips? Hey, can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? I've applied 18 years. I don't know why, no one's calling me. They've got this whole like anxiety over, or just not even having closure, not even knowing why. Because a lot of times they don't get feedback as to why or what's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm finally like, there's a huge need for this. And during COVID, I'm like, I'm just going to start this business, and I'm just going to help people make their videos, just to know what to put in their videos. Because so often, like, I'll find a great personality, a really outgoing, fun, big energy person, but says nothing in their video. They talk about like looking for idols and, not telling anybody, or building a spy shack, or, just really general stuff that says nothing about who they are. And so if you dig a little deeper and ask the right questions, then you can find like, this is good content. This is what you need to put in your video. So I've kind of helped with that, amongst other things, as far as applying to reality shows, having, what's out there that you can apply to, how to apply to it. It's all on the website.
And I've noticed a shift in some reality shows where actually recruiting contestants. I mean, this is a timely business because it seems like the shift over the last maybe 2-3 years has gone back to fan-based, acceptance, as opposed to let's find this particular stereotypical person to fill that role on Survivor or whatever show, Big Brother or wherever. It seems like they want that person that's more knowledgeable about the show because they're a huge fan and really would appreciate and respect the opportunity maybe a little bit more than just grabbing somebody out of a crowd.
Yeah, and it depends on the show. Survivor's definitely like that. I mean, they want fans, they want strategists, they want people who know the show well, know who the past players are, the mistakes they've made, the things they've done that are well. They want a really good strategic game. I feel like Race is a little less so, but still wants people that know the show. But given the fact that you're teams of 2, you have just a little bit more flexibility when the recruiting part of it. Big Brother, I mean, I've had a few people on Big Brother, but I don't cast for them, so they may have crossed over. It seems like they have been a little bit less concerned based on watching it about, how well people know the show. And then there's other shows, like The Bachelor and things like that. I mean, they actively recruit and find people.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's a lot of shows that still actively recruit. But if you love something and it's a competition reality show, especially, you should know the show.
Yeah. I mean, that only makes sense, I would think. You mentioned the recruitment. I mean, Bachelor and Bachelorette, they're actually looking for people. They have to fit a criteria to be eligible for the show. So it makes sense of the recruiting. I interviewed Johnny Fairplay. He obviously didn't try out for Survivor, right? He was recruited to be on there and do what he did. I think he was on he was on twice, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Would he just get a call from somebody just like he would from a gig that he was being signed up for?
Well, I mean, I've recruited tons of people before it kind of switched over.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Joe Anglim was a recruit.
Yeah.
Hello
Okay.
was a recruit. Well, Culpeppers. I mean, there's a lot of good people that have played that were recruited. And Hayden Moss was the first one. I met him on a plane. So it used to be that we would go out, we'd find these people that had great personalities that would be really good television, and they either knew the show somewhat or they learned the show and then they were on it. Now it's not as much that way. So yeah, I think there's both. There's great recruits and there's great people that aren't, and it's up to the network and what they want for their show and where that falls in that line.
Yeah. Has anything slowed down due to COVID, or since the shows are starting to come back, has that been okay for your business?
Yeah, I mean, it has. So you mentioned Johnny Fairplay. He was old school, so that's why he was recruited. And
Yeah.
These days, who knows? He's a great character, so who knows? But not really what they're doing as far as COVID goes. They basically Survivor couldn't tape this year.
Yeah.
They were going to tape March, April, May, June. It didn't happen, and who knows what they'll do for sure. My feeling is it probably will tape next March, April, May, June.
Yeah.
And then so it will pretty much skip a whole year.
How much crossover into, and I'm always interested in this because they're kind of the behind the scenes stuff, but is there a lot? I know there used to be a lot of crossover, but haven't watched Big Brother in, I don't know, 10 years. I don't remember the last time I watched it. It was right when they were making the shift to celebrity Big Brother. I just remember that, like, the next season I didn't watch it because it was a bunch of, has been celebrities on it, and I wasn't interested in that. But you would see people on other reality shows and say, well, I know that guy from somewhere. Is that still happening as frequently as it did back in the day, or is it?
No, not as much. I mean, it's not like we're having, we used to be, we had Cliff Robinson, we had like famous people,
yeah,
doing a little more recruiting. There's still, like, I think Lisa from the Back to Life.
She was on that. Yeah.
She actually applied because she's a big fan.
What was her last name?
So certain people like that, can apply and be fans, and we'll still have, I'm sure, pro athletes and this and that, but it's not like really you're going out and just searching for pro athletes. They're pro athletes that haven't.
I think Jeff Kent did that too. Jeff Kent he didn't want anybody to know, and they figured him out. Lisa didn't. Welcher. Yeah. She didn't want to be known either, but I think it came out somewhere. At least Kent. Well, maybe it didn't. I don't remember. I know Jeff Kent, one woman, like the first week he was there, she said, I know who that is. She's like, my husband's a big, Dodger fan or whatever.
Yeah. Usually those guys get found out pretty quick because somebody recognizes them.
You think Cliff might, by the way, Cliff passed away. He's a UConn guy. He played basketball at UConn too. And he died recently, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That's terrible. But he's 9 feet tall. You would guess he might be a basketball player.
Right. Yeah. They stand out. Those guys stand out. And you look at them and you're like, they do something.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for telling us about the journey of Amazing Race and your new business, Casting Reality. If you want to, get it from the people that know. I mean, don't do it yourself. You'll screw it up. Yeah, I would screw it up.
Slight warning is, as much as I love the past players that have played, they don't always give the best advice.
Is that true? Because they only know their route, you think, or no?
The reason that they got on might be different than somebody else, the way they get on, right? So they give advice, but it's not always right. And
and
it's told me to do this, and I'm like, but that's not right,
So your experience, though, of recruiting people, though, you've recruited a lot of different people. So it's not just your experience; you have a different take. It's interesting you say that because we have a Shark Tank series that we ran, and we had over 100 entrepreneurs, and they each one would say, I talk to people all the time, asking me how to get on the tank, and how do you audition, and what do you put the paperwork, and all that stuff. What's the best way to do it, and the videos of the producers, and they go through it all. And one of the guys said, I stopped doing it because the 3 people that got on that he helped get to the tank didn't get a deal. And one of them didn't even air when they got on, and he's like, I'm not doing something. He literally just said, looking inward, I'm not doing something right with prepping these people. I stopped telling. So he refers people to other, guys that have done it in the past, he's basically saying what you just said, which was, I only know my experience and here's how I did it, which got me on the show and got me a deal, but it's not working for you. So he literally just said, he actually said, I waved the white flag and said, I'm done with it.
Yeah. And ultimately you don't want to be responsible for somebody else not being able to fill their situation, right? Just because your experience would be different. So, yeah.
Is it still outrageously difficult to get on all these shows? We're talking about hundreds of thousands of applications. I mean, it's just to separate yourself. I would think your type of service would be beneficial. Just going through the everyday motions and I at least know in myself, if I was to apply, I would never do it. But if I was to, I have no creativity whatsoever. Zero. And so I would be the one that went like this. Oh, Nick Marola. Okay, next. Move. Like nothing. Watch my video. It wouldn't be interesting. You have to go with someone like Jodi. I'd have to. And then she would go, I can't help you either. But anyway, again, don't pick on me.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of a reward from doing the business, because I can see people that what they sent me originally and then where they end up with their video. And I'm like, it's so nice.
Yes.
Like, look, this is your best video. This is you. You're now showing them who you are instead of not saying anything,
Yeah.
And so it's rewarding. And they're always like, I get lots of really positive feedback that they're so happy. So it's fun to do.
Have you ever told somebody the bad news? That
I tell them a lot.
Like, I'm not sure you're right for this.
I'm pretty much a straight shooter. Yeah.
So
I tell them, I'm like, yeah. The hardest one for me are anyone who's been in acting. If they've been an actor, they cannot seem to be themselves.
Right. It's always an act.
Video. And if I see a video, I'm like, I'm not buying this. This isn't genuine. Like, and then they send me another video and it's a completely different person. You're like, what are you doing here? Like, you're not playing a character. You're not flipping it to like, I think they want to see this. Now I think they want to see that. I'm like, you got to figure out who you are and let's work with that.
Authenticity is key here.
So big. Such a big thing. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to change anyone's personality. I'm just going to try to get the best information about them out.
Do you have more than do people come to you for a variety of different shows? Will they?
Different shows, yeah.
Interesting. That's so cool. That's really cool. Well, listen, I've kept you longer than I said. Good luck on your business. Thank you for sharing the journey. Really appreciate it. And I hope we can chat again soon sometime.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll be back with more What Would You Ask podcast in a second.